Today's video is brought to you by StoryboardThat.com. Please visit TeacherCast.net/StoryboardThat for a limited time offer. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TechEducator Podcast. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today for episode number 81. Today, we are talking all about Google Classroom. There's, of course, several great ways that you can connect with us each and every week and be a part of our show. You can, of course, reach out to us on TeacherCast.net and leave us a voicemail at TeacherCast.net/voicemail. Email us at feedback@teachercast.net and subscribe to this and all of our shows over at teachercast.net/iTunes and teachercast.net/YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a jam-packed live audience right now over at teachercast.tv talking all about Google Classroom. We have some great guests, but first I want to share with you some of the great things that have been happening here on the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network. You can, of course, find all of our great stuff over at TeacherCast. And this past week, we were guests of Peggy George and Classroom 2.0. Want to say thank you to Peggy for hosting us and helping us share all the great stuff that's been going on. Of course, we opened up a brand new channel last week called Educational Podcasting.tips. We've had a lot of people asking questions about how to start your own podcast, and I want to share with you guys that we have a brand new channel where we're helping you start your own podcast. Of course, we're over here live on TeacherCast.tv, and what we would like to ask you guys, if you have time today, is go over to TeacherCast.net/iTunes and check us out on iTunes and scroll all the way to the bottom and leave us some great customer reviews. If you like this show, if you're listening to the show, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. But the big thing about TeacherCast this week is we have a brand new iBook that's coming out on the iBook store. If you go to teachercast.net/kidblogbook, teachercast.net/kidblogbook, you will see that on February 15th, we are releasing to the world the definitive manual on KidBlog. Check it out. It's 55, I think it is, or so pages complete with written stuff, maps, video, you name it. If you're a teacher out there that's using KidBlog or is interested in using KidBlog, certainly check it out and let us know what you think. Leave us some reviews and certainly check out our book today. We have some great guests today, but first I want to bring on our co-host, Mr. Sam Patterson. Sam, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you today, Jeff?
I am doing fantastic. It's good to be back here on the show. We have a great show talking all about Google Classroom. Have you used Google Classroom yet?
You know, I've looked over the shoulder of people using Google Classroom. We haven't rolled it out at our school yet, so I haven't been that far into it. But honestly, something that allows me to do all of those cool script things without those scary script things, that sounds really great to me. And what I'm really excited about is we have the queen of knowing how to do cool script things, Alice Keeler, here with us to talk about how to use Classroom to do all of those script things.
I know.
We don't want to do.
She's here, and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Want to bring on our other co-host, Mr. Jeff Herb, today. Jeff, how are you?
Doing great, Jeff. Great to be here tonight.
How are things in Administrator Land?
Administrator Land, always a good time, except for when it's not. But usually it's a great time.
I've heard some great things happening over on InstructionalTechTalk.com. Tell me about the latest and greatest there.
Latest and greatest, we had a couple of podcasts released last week. One of them was about Kahoot, and another one was about the Classroom app. We've had a lot of our teachers get on board using Google Classroom in our building, and they've had a lot of success with it. So looking forward to hear what everyone has to say tonight.
Absolutely. Mr. Josh, how are you today?
Doing great, Jeff, and I'm really happy that you're doing well. You look good.
Thank you so much.
Worried about you before.
I had a little bit of a health scare, but enough about me. How are things up where you are?
It's cold again, and that's why I'm wearing this hat even inside. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that we're talking about Google tonight. Just pure coincidence.
Now, did you have to search for that Google hat?
Nice. That's good.
Only slightly.
David Saunders, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm doing really well. The Patriots are Super Bowl champions, and I'm ready to roll. Here we go.
That is awesome. Tell us a little bit about our show today. We are talking all about Google Classroom.
Yes, we are. We've got 3 amazing guests tonight. As we mentioned, we have Alice Keeler on. We also have Jen Holland, who's a product manager for Google for Education and for Classroom. And we have Nina Basinet, who is a classroom teacher and tech integrator and professional development leader at our school. Inside secret, we're actually just across the hall from one another in the same building, but you wouldn't know that unless I just told you.
Excellent. Why don't you help us bring on and introduce our guest there?
I'm sorry?
Why don't you introduce our guest for us?
Oh, okay, will do. Well, I figured it would be a good place to get started would be with Jen. Jen, is it all right if we get started with you? I got a sort of an overview question for you.
Yes, shoot away.
Fabulous. You've been working on the development and the rollout of Classroom, and I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of, Classroom's origin story. What was the challenge or the opportunity that you were trying to address in developing this new product?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's always a great opportunity to be able to talk to educators. It's the best part of my job. So really, it started back, 2006. Google Apps for Education launched and became available for schools. It was a great consumer product. It grew organically. We saw tons and tons of teachers and students globally use it. But a lot of the feedback that we heard was that, there's still areas that we could improve in the workflow and really provide more of a teacher school lens to Google Apps for Education. And so we kicked off a research project back in January 2013 where we just sat down with hundreds of teachers, literally hundreds of teachers, observed their classes, better understood their workflow. And what we saw was it took a lot of steps to actually do some of the regular assignment workflows or things that happen daily in a classroom. So for example, to just create an assignment using Google Apps, you'd have to make copies for each student, individually. You'd have to share that with the student. You'd have to create a shared folder, and you'd hope that, as students organize their work that way, that they're not looking at other students' work. And so there's a lot of just time that it took to actually put that workflow together. And that's if you were using, Google Apps for Education. If you were still using paper, you were probably battling the copy machine every morning. And so what we saw was there was an opportunity to help streamline that workflow, to make it really easy to create and collect assignments paperlessly, to improve class communication by providing one single destination for teachers and students to go to see what they need to do when they need to do it. And we felt like we could really take an opportunity to help organize people's drive folders, because most people don't organize their drive folders. And so we organize that. We create folders for each assignment for the teacher and organize all the student work that way. And so we built a prototype back in November and tested it with 3 teachers, got amazing feedback. We rebuilt the whole product, got a ton of feedback from those students, added some of those features, and then beta tested it again with 17 schools, kindergarten through university, every grade, every subject, socioeconomic type, device type, you name it. We wanted to make sure that it worked in every possible situation, and it did. We also got another, tons of feedback, which is really core to our team, and I know I'll talk about that later. And then on May 6th, Teacher Appreciation Day, we announced to the world that we were using, or that we had created Classroom. And the amazing part, not only was the launch, but that there was no leaks prior to that. So that meant we had lots and lots and lots of people who kept it quiet. And so far, it's gone really well. We've been really excited with the outpouring of support for it.
So how did you, so you went from 3 schools to 17 schools. How did you select those schools? I mean, so you mentioned sort of demographic diversity, but was there a process of application, or were you specifically looking at connections you already had?
Yeah, so we wanted to look for a variety of variety of scenarios. You have to be a Google Apps for Education school, so that was sort of the starting point. We looked for a variety of different device types. And then, because it was a pilot, we handpicked, so there was no application. So that was actually the process that I was in charge of. And some of it had to do with proximity to the Google New York office, so that our engineers could go into the classrooms and actually see how the product was being used. I think for us, while we built something, we learned so much from sitting alongside teachers and students and actually working with them to build the product. A lot of times people will assume what teachers and students need, and for us, it was really important to better understand that workflow and design something that is useful and hopefully saves them time.
Right. Nina.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Well, how are you, David?
I'm good. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and where you're coming from, and then talk to us a little bit about how you got started with Classroom?
Sure. I teach sixth grade. I teach technology, language arts, and history. We became an exclusive gay school 2 years ago, and it's just kind of been no looking ever since. It's been kind of a grassroots situation here where it was launched, we had access to it, there was no official training, but a bunch of colleagues and I sort of took the reins and began using it. For me in my sixth grade class, I'm using Google for a sort of my curriculum, and everything is in it. I'll share with you what my looks like, and I can give you a little bit of a sense of what how I've implemented the classroom. So here's my class site, and everything in here, look at the site as my curriculum, and I look at the Google Classroom as my binder. And it's been a really great way to organize the students. And in thinking about how I was going to launch Classroom with my sixth graders this year, I didn't want to give them too many places to go to. And if you can see here, I have everything sort of set up in our class site with our agendas and our overview for all of our units, which has links everywhere. And the Classroom is simply another resource that I've implemented into the site. So on our homework page, where we use the Classroom, it's always linked out to assignments. So I've used it more as an organizer for the students and for myself for grading and for responding and organizing all of our information that way. So it's been a nice addition to what I've been using with the site. The kids have found it really seamless. Turning in docs and enabling me to grade and return them to them has been terrific. So yeah, and it's taken off with the middle school, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teachers have also gotten on board, and it's been terrific. The simple interface and the way that it engages with the drive has been terrific for us.
David, you're muted.
You're muted, David.
I am muted. Thank you for letting me know. I was saying we've got quite a few teachers on the panel here. I guess I'd open it up. Like, how did you all get started with Classroom? Were there training programs in place for you? Did you sort of organically group together with like-minded colleagues at your school? Was there any support?
Well, for our school, we sort of found the people that were using the Google Apps for education, and when we learned about the Classroom coming out in June, we all sort of gathered together and sort of created our own classrooms with each other and figured out pretty quickly how to use it, and then started to have that meaningful conversation of how it could be used in the classroom. So as I shared, I used it with my sites, but there are some teachers who use Classroom exclusively and share all of their information through the Classroom. It just depends on your style, and we've had great conversation about how it's best used with the students.
Right. Josh, are you using Classroom?
Well, I have a few teachers, so I'm a tech integrator. So
right.
I myself have been in a classroom. I have teachers who are currently using it, and they love it. I mean, they've had a couple bumps along the way, but they're doing great with it. It is going really well, and they have nothing but positive things to say. And this is at 6th grade level is primarily where it's being used. So
all right.
I'm good.
David, let me ask you a question here. As somebody who's starting out using Google Classroom this week, in fact, with my high school kids, what is the best way to engage students with this? What is the best way to bring in student buy-in, I would say, to this? In the past, last semester, I didn't want to go Google Classroom. It was still new to me. I had a lot of things going on. So basically, I would create a Google Doc. I would have the kids log into it, copy it, and it really was a mess. I love some of the new Google features with Docs that we're going to talk about today, but what is the best way to really get kids to buy into using these technologies if they're not used to using them in other classrooms?
Right. I would actually defer that question to some of our classroom teachers that we have here. Alice, do you have some input as to how to maximize engagement, incentivize participation with your students?
Incentivize them to use Google Classroom?
Yeah.
I don't think you need to incentivize them too much if it becomes part of the fabric of your classroom. And so as I say, any tool that you're going to adopt, if you're going to adopt it, use it often and make that your general workflow. So even though you have other systems to turn things in, you choose one and you consistently use Google Classroom as your turn-in process. So if they'd like points and they'd like to get credit for their work, they're going to use Google Classroom.
I'd also just jump in. We've heard from a lot of students, both participating in the product forum and then also, at schools that we visit, and they love having one place to go. They love the ease of use and the fact that they can get their homework now on their phone or on any computer, or tablet. It just really makes it a lot easier for them and less worry about forgetting their homework at home, or if they do forget their homework, their parents. Someone can take a picture and they can turn that in. So just the ability to do their homework from anywhere has really helped.
You okay, Sam?
We actually got started using Classroom out of a specific need. A few of our foreign language teachers were really trying to find a way to easily have students be able to record themselves speaking in a language and then have the teacher be able to listen to that and respond with comments and then ultimately give them a grade and do it very easily. And, we racked our minds trying to think of, a bunch of different ways to do it, and Classroom really was our best solution because they were able to make recordings, put them up in as an attachment to the assignment in Classroom. The teacher can listen to that audio file right in Classroom, which was phenomenal for the teachers. So they had a lot of luck utilizing it that way, and that got a lot of buy-in from our teachers, and then that spread like wildfire. After those teachers talked to other teachers, so many teachers found different ways to utilize Classroom in their own content areas. But in our building, it started out of a specific need that just wasn't being met using other platforms.
Mm-hmm. We were using Doctopus for a while, which turned into, I'm not a big spreadsheet lover, and so to have to learn how to get all of those scripts out, and it just looked so formulaic, and I finally got on board with it. And then when this came out, I thought, it's much easier. It's an easier way to either make a copy for all of the kids or let all the students work in one document. However you decide to send it out, was just a seamless way to share information with them without all of the, behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or Alice, I thought she was going to fall over a little bit there with the spreadsheet comment. But I understand what you mean totally. I mean, for teachers and trying to help them with their workflow, especially if they're reluctant, that is a hurdle. Now, I've experienced some success with the spreadsheet stuff, but I think with most of the uses people are using Doctopus for, Google Classroom solved those things.
Right. I can just jump in. I am super nerdy with spreadsheets, and to be honest with you, when I looked at Doctopus, I'm like, that's too much. I'm not doing that. So, I love Andrew Stillman, and I use AutoCrat all the time, but Google Classroom literally has just saved me hours of having to do things. Like, even just doing classwork, things that I'd have to have students work out for the turn-in process that I'd have to spend a couple hours teaching them, that is just gone. I have recaptured so much instructional time.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads me to, I think, my question on this panel, another technology leaders in their communities. And I'm going to make the assumption that people who are listening or in the chat either haven't used Classroom before because it hasn't been activated in their domain, or maybe they're not a Google Apps domain at all, but they're thinking about it. How would you describe Classroom to someone who's never seen it before? And what would you say to try and convince them that it's something that they should add to their repertoire?
Well, I think it's one of those things where technology is there to solve a problem. It's there to help with efficiency. It's there to make life easier. And I think that's the best case you can make is that it's going to make life easier for you. It's going to save you time in some aspects, and then show them how it will do that. And the scariest part's going to be if they're not living digitally yet. I mean, that's going to be a big leap. But if you can consistently kind of harp on the time saving, the efficiency, the ease of use, I think that's the best case that you can make, and obviously provide the support. I mean, if you're a technology leader, be there for them. I'm fortunate enough that that's my job to do that. But I mean, if you're another teacher too, just kind of being somebody saying, hey, you can lean on me if you want to try this. We'll be in this together. I think that goes a long way.
So streamlining, efficiency, time saving. Anything else that hasn't been added to this maybe list of reasons why people should give it a shot?
I think ease of access, because it's working with Google Drive. I'm able to access Google Drive on all my devices anywhere, anytime. So just the fact that I'm not having to be at school, I don't have to lug that box of papers. That's your biggest selling point, right? The box of papers you drag home that you are going to grade. Yeah, right? I can actually literally grade things on my phone. I can pull it up using the Drive app. I don't even have to be in classroom. So I think that those are just huge savers, the fact that I can take it with me anywhere.
I think that's actually the biggest struggle I have right now is that there's a lot of teachers that are starting to use Google more and are starting to have students turn in things digitally, but either they're printing or they'll have the students type up the work and they'll still print it, and they always tell me, I can't grade these online. I can't do that. And that's the next big area that I have to help them with, is how if they can just learn and spend a little time getting more comfortable grading things online, that's going to save them a lot. Because, yeah, I literally watched a teacher this year walk out the door on a Friday with a duffel bag full of papers. And it hurt me. Like, I literally, almost fell over.
It hurt them too, Josh. Like, they threw out their back. You can be sure. Because they did. And, I mean, I try to ride my bike to and from school, and there were times where, I go to the bike shop, and they're like, you broke another axle. What are you carrying, like 60 pounds on the back of your bike? And I was like, yeah, that's about it between books and papers. And I think that this is actually one of the big points about Classroom, is it makes a digital instructional interaction possible. I work with a lot of teachers who have access to tech, but for some teachers, it takes a long time to actually deliver a digital lesson. We spend a lot of time getting tech to fill in little spots of our class day, but it's difficult when you were trained to deliver instruction in a way that was analog, to make that jump over to delivering digital content. Often you end up giving control of that content in large over to the students a lot more also. So, David, when you're saying, what's great about Classroom, it gets you started in a digital work environment with your students.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think one of the first steps to be able to do that is something I was talking about earlier, is that you really need to define your purpose for utilizing it as well. The people that were on our foreign language team, some of them are some of the least tech-savvy people in our building, and they would, they would admit it themselves. I'm not speaking ill about them behind their backs. But, they jumped into this because they saw what a difference it made for themselves as teachers and for their students to be able to get very prompt feedback that was actually meaningful to them on a regular basis. So I think it's really having a defined purpose for utilizing the technology instead of just saying, I just want to use Google Classroom and we'll see how it goes, because a lot of the times that people do that with any tool, it ends up being used once or twice and then fizzles out.
I think the other thing that we saw and we've heard from pilots and then also feedback is just the simplicity of it. It's so easy to get going and get started that it's not as intimidating as a lot of other tools and resources that are out there. And it also makes it a lot easier to go Google or use Google Apps in the classroom. You don't have to necessarily understand all the mechanics to be able to use it, or all the mechanics for Google Apps. And so Classroom just sort of provides that lens and makes it really easy to adopt both a digital classroom, but also using Google Apps. And we've just heard from a number of teachers how much they appreciate the simplicity, and that it really is easy to get going. You know what an announcement it is, you know what an assignment it is. It's not like you have to learn a whole new lingo to get going.
Right.
I'd just throw in that it gives students more voice. So if you're looking for how you can connect better with your students, right away, as soon as you post an assignment, students have the capability of asking questions, and they don't have to raise their hand to ask that question on the assignment. And then just the ability to insert comments on student documents back and forth, and having that back and forth private feedback that's on the grading side of Google Classroom just really, I think, is a way for teachers to get to know their students better and for their students to connect with them. And as teachers, I hope that we care about that. And so I think that would be a good selling point as well.
You know, it certainly does seem like Google Classroom is a great and easy way to not only connect with your students, but like you said, go paperless. Josh, you're using Google Classroom. Would you be able to share with us a little demonstration or some screenshots there of how you're using Google Classroom and how we can create an assignment?
Sure, yeah, I can go through a little bit of it. I have some teachers who are using it, and so I myself, without having a class myself, I don't have anything to show on that side, but thanks to having a sandbox domain, I have a full classroom full of students that I can assign stuff to, and every one of those students is me. So, okay, anyways, moving on here. So I have classroom up on this end here, and so I have a class built as so. I could certainly go through showing how to make a class, add students, etc. It's all pretty seamless, and this is what it looks like. It's all in a streamline. Students can either add through a code, or you can auto add the students by their email. And then to assign things, you just decide what you want to assign. Either you can just make it an announcement and something that's kind of just ad hoc, or you can actually do a full-on assignment that's worth points, etc. So when students come out there, they're going to have a whole list of their assignments that they have that are due, and this is kind of how we get to the Doctopus part of things. So how teachers are using Doctopus to make copies for students. That's one of the big things that Classroom does so simply. So you can just type in description, whatnot, due date, and then down below is where you can attach items. So one of the best ways to use it is obviously to attach a Google Drive item. You click on that, it pulls up your drive. Then you just pick something, click add, and you can add multiple things. So if I wanted to add something else, I can drop it right in there. So when Sam was talking about creating this digital lesson and delivering a digital lesson, and I know that Alice Keeler has posts on this as well, you can add multiple things so that all the resources are there that students would need to accomplish a task, whether it's a big or small task. On the right side here, you can see what the permissions levels are. Right here, it says students can view the file. So they can open it up. If it's like a direction sheet, they can just view it. They also have the option to edit, and that would give every student in the classroom the option to edit. And then the magic is in this one right here. You actually make a copy for each student so that they have one of their own to edit that's already shared with you. So that part is absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to click assign, and then I'm going to quickly log in as a student.
Josh, say that again. Did you have the document created before you signed into Classroom, or do you make the document in Classroom?
I made the documents before I signed into Classroom, so I was using a kind of a template document to send out.
And do those documents have to be owned by your Google Apps for Education, or can you simply have a doc that somebody else shared with you from maybe another domain or another account? Can you then use that document for Google Classroom?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, I wasn't sure on that one, so I was going to do what I always do and just go check.
So for instance, let's say Alice makes something for her class and I really like it. She shares it with me. I can use that document that's owned by Alice for my classroom and my classroom assignments.
Absolutely. And so one of the tricks I do is I create a folder that I share with myself so that when I make it on my personal account, because that's probably what I'm logged in as, I can automatically get all of those assignments anyway.
You would just have to add them to your drive first, I believe. You'd have to add that shared folder to your drive.
No, you don't.
So tell me where I can find that then, because I have insert files using Google Drive right here.
All right, try owner : and then the email address of whoever it is that's sharing with you. The whole email address.
Was that a colon or a period?
That's
colon,
a colon.
Owner :
Granted, to be fair, this is a sandbox account that I don't have a whole lot shared with.
Okay.
But perhaps you could demo that later. That would be awesome.
And do you know the answer to that? Am I wrong?
You do need to be the owner of the document.
No, you don't.
If you're making a copy, you do.
Well, this is a fun discussion.
I have
Yes, this is
password
getting
right now.
fancy.
Ooh.
You should get an oops error. Make sure you own the document.
I'm gonna leave this one up to Alice, but that's how you go and create an assignment. I am actually very curious now about that answer because I wasn't sure, but if that's true, that'd be great.
I love the fact that you can, I'm changing the subject, that you can
Thank
take
you.
a doc and you can either have a copy for every student, or if you wanted all of those students in that class to have access to that one doc so that you're all sort of engaging with each other. I love that there are the variety of options for them, and for the way that you share it out, I think is pretty terrific.
Yeah, and we had an unusual use of it here at our school. We were piloting a new schedule for the month of January, and we needed to figure out a way to get an individual copy of the pilot schedule with each student's electives in, but not change the structure of the days or anything like that. And we sort of racked our minds, sounds like what Jeff was talking about with the world language stuff. And we initially thought, well, we'll just send it out through Doctopus, and then I thought, well, Classroom would be a way to do this. And so we put every student in the upper school, which is like 250 kids, into classes of their advisors. And then we sent a individual copy of a spreadsheet to them with protected cells, and then they were able to complete it. And then it all just went into a folder, and it was brilliant. And it was like a perfect case example of why Classroom is a useful tool to have in the school.
Yeah, we've also seen a number of couple other use cases, like we had one school that does their morning announcements in classrooms. So they've created an all-school class and put everyone in across all the grades, share morning announcements, share any updates or sports scores or what's happening with theater, you name it. And so it's one destination again for all the students to go. But it freed up that morning announcement time so that the moderators of each class could actually get to know their kids more. We also have seen, clubs and organizations on campuses or schools use that as a resource to share materials. A lot of professional development training happens with Classroom. There's a lot of different use cases. I was in an 8th grade class and they were doing a debate with Classroom. So the teacher actually created a separate class and they shared resources for this debate, and then they went back and forth on it. We also see peer editing. A number of teachers create different Classroom classes to provide different personalized learning tracks. So there's a lot of different use cases that's been really fun to see. Initially we thought it was going to be more of a homework tool, and what we found was that it's used all the time throughout the day in classes and outside.
So I have a question here about functionality, and Alice and I were talking about this on Twitter the other day, and she brought up an interesting solution, but I wanted to ask the panel here. My students do not have email turned on their Google Apps. And so I know with Classroom you can do things and they can get email notifications and stuff like that, but I don't have the ability to do that. And I'm not even in the position where I can say, hey, let's have all 5,000 students in our district suddenly get email because I want to use Google Classroom. What suggestions?
You don't need email.
So what are the advantages of using it with an email address or without an email address? Or could you talk to us a little bit about some of the notifications, or give us a little bit more background here of the best ways to use this?
So you do not need email turned on in order to use Classroom. We had a number of schools in our pilot that actually didn't have email turned on, and it worked beautifully. It just means that students have to log in just like they would to any other website and look at their homework and see what was posted or what's happening in class. Notifications are sent, if email's turned on, notifications are sent for new announcements or assignments, or if someone responds directly, to a comment of yours in the stream. But you absolutely do not need email turned on in order to use Classroom. It's just like an added bonus.
Good to know.
We actually,
go ahead.
I was going to say for the 6th graders, we had the email notifications turned on, and it was a little bit overwhelming for them because every time I posted an assignment or made a comment, they kept getting emails. And for 6th graders to manage all the email, it was too much. So we had our admin actually turn it off because it was a little overwhelming for them.
Alice, I have a question for you. So you've obviously been a great resource for teachers all over with ed tech stuff for years, and you recently wrote a blog post about 5 things you may not know about Classroom, but I just found out you also were presenting sessions on 35 to 45, maybe 46 things about Classroom. I'm wondering if you could pick a handful of those and talk to us a bit about things we may not know about Classroom.
Yeah, I picked 5, and they're not necessarily the 5 that are on my 5 things blog post. So if you want to read that, you can go to alicekeeler.com. So the first thing that I noticed that a lot of people actually don't realize is the change of ownership of documents. So when a document is created for a student or when they create a document, they're the owner. And when they click turn in, ownership changes to the teacher. And that's going to remain until the teacher returns the assignment to the student. So the first thing is just to realize that there is a change of ownership. And when the ownership changes to the teacher, the student no longer can edit the document. And so sometimes that causes some people to freak out. They're like, the kids can't edit it anymore. And so it's a really easy fix is to either have them unsubmit or to just go ahead and return it to them. Another thing that a lot of people don't know is that teachers can be students. So you'll notice that when you log into Google Classroom as a teacher, in the upper right-hand corner when you click on the plus button, it gives you the option to create a class, but it also gives you the option to join a class. So I think that this gives you a really unique opportunity to observe other teachers, whereas it's almost impossible to get outside of your classroom to see what other teachers are doing. I can now join classes around campus, don't do too many, but I can get into and see what other people are doing, and we can share best practices. So, and you can also use it for professional development, like the principal could set up a class, and the teachers could all be the students. What did I write here? I can't read my own handwriting. Students can create Google Docs. Oh, right. Students can create Google Docs right from Google Classroom. So if they click on the open button in an assignment, there is a create button that allows them to create a document, a spreadsheet, other things, at least a document and a spreadsheet, drawing, I think, I don't know. But it allows them to create the document straight there, so it automatically is attached to the assignment. It's automatically named the same as the assignment name. It automatically appends the student's name to the document title, and it's automatically created in the folder for the classroom assignment for the teacher to locate. So instead of asking the student to go to Google Drive to create a blank original document, they go to Classroom first, and then that solves a whole lot of problems. Number 4, I wrote this on a Post-it note.
Very nice.
With a pencil. Okay, so you can share, rename. Okay, you may not know this, but the documents are actually linked by the document ID, not the location. So if you need to move folders or rename the files, you can. So, I don't know about you, but I assign a lot of work. So my Google Drive classroom folder starts getting a lot of folders. So as I've had things that I've already graded, I can just make an archive folder in my Google Classroom folder and just drag all those other folders up in there to kind of clean up the process. So moving files around doesn't mess things up. So I think that's super cool. And then, unfortunately, there's no anonymous chupacabra when you use Google Classroom. So, like, I don't know if you know this, but the X-Files episode with the chupacabra was filmed in Fresno, which is where I'm from. So my class mascot is the chupacabra. So when you share a Google document, like anyone can view or anyone can edit or comment, And, the students would click on your link on your website. They'd all come in as anonymous animals, the chupacabra, the frog, the liger, which, is like super cute. But people always like, how do you know which one's which? And you're like, you're not supposed to. But what's really nice about Google Classroom is it actually removes the anonymous animals, and it shares it implicitly with the students in your class. So when students link into a document, they're actually logged in as themselves. You'll see their either picture or letter of their name along the top. And so when I go look at revision history, it no longer says anonymous, anonymous, anonymous. It has their name, so I can see who participated in the assignment and in the task. And I would really recommend you show kids that to help them to be a little more motivated to participate. But when somebody does something stupid, I also have the ability to know who did it.
Sure.
I have a digital citizenship moment.
There you go.
Sharing that accountability.
What's that?
Sharing that accountability system with the kids is important because, like you said, they are more motivated to, behave and do what they should do when they see that it matters and they see that, yes, you can actually tell, because they're not messing around out of evil. They're messing around because they can.
That's a good point.
Except for the evil.
Sometimes they just don't even know they're doing it. You're like, why are you drawing on the desk? What? I'm drawing on the desk? Sometimes you just want to point out to kids what they're doing, and they're just like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't do that. And that's the end of the conversation,
Right.
Good to go.
So we've been using Google Classroom now for the last semester. Where is the future of Google Classroom going, do you think? What are some of the features that teachers are asking for, or what are some of those things that teachers are like banging their head against the wall because they want to do something, but they're not able to do something yet? What's in the future?
I have one.
Yes.
Maybe you can answer this. I'm co-teaching with a colleague, and he cannot have rights as a teacher. So he is now a student in my class, and when we want to share grading responsibilities, he doesn't have access to the teacher. I've actually found a workaround with that with the Hapara dashboard. So when the student, he has access to the dashboard as a teacher. So when the students turn in their work, he actually can view it through the dashboard, but I can't share teaching rights with him. So hopefully that's something on the radar that's going to take place later.
Yeah, so I'd love to just quickly chat through kind of our feedback process, because I think a lot of people are sort of unaware what happens once someone submits feedback using that send feedback button in the product. So we actually read, I personally read every single piece of feedback that comes in, and it gets tagged and prioritized accordingly. And that kicks off our research and design process. And so what we do is, we don't just assume that whatever you asked for is actually what you want. You might be talking about something on the surface, and we could actually go deeper with interviews and usability studies to better understand what the request is. So usually what we do is we kick off a series of focus groups. We meet with a lot of our pilot school teachers, and just to better understand that feedback. And then we work with our engineering and our design team to actually design what that feature functionality looks like. And when we're ready, we release it. And that a lot of the times we release things based on the school schedule. The last thing that we want to do is add features or functionality, on a random Wednesday, either mid-semester where you come in and see your classroom is totally changed, because that wouldn't be particularly helpful for most teachers. So we try to align our rollouts, maybe when there's a break or winter break, and obviously, of course, when it works for our eng team as well. But we've gotten a number of requests. Multi-teacher, co-teacher is a big one, and we're definitely looking into figuring out what that might look like. A lot of people are like, oh, it's a design oversight. It's definitely not. We want to be really thoughtful about what we add and when we add it, and any new feature that we add adds another layer of complexity. And the single best feature of Classroom is the simplicity. So for us, we want to be really thoughtful about what we add and when we add it, and not just tack on a bunch of features without really thinking through the end-to-end experience. Because Like I mentioned, it is really easy to get going and get started, and we want to keep it that way.
Do you ever see a time where Google Classroom will be available to parents?
So the parent role is actually another really interesting one, and one that we, are spending a lot of time trying to better understand. A lot of teachers want different things with parent view, as teachers would call it. And you'd be surprised at the different types of feedback that we get around parent view. And so just want to better understand what teachers, administrators, even students want to see. We have some students that are asking for parent view, which is like the best piece of feedback to read. They want to be able to share their great work with their parents. So we want to be really thoughtful about how or when we do that.
Well, you had a big rollout recently with the app, the mobile app.
Yep.
What's the feedback been so far with the Classroom app?
People love it. It is, we were so excited with it. We launched Classroom mid-August. So for us to then pivot and really focus on mobile apps was a huge, huge request, both from teachers and students. So again, how feedback comes in and the prioritization, that was really top. And so for us, we wanted to not only create an app. You won't see necessarily every feature or functionality in the desktop version, and that's intentional. You do different things with your mobile or tablet device. So some of the things that are cool with it is that you can take a picture and turn in something for your assignment. In our pilot classes, it was awesome. I was visiting, and I had a 12th grade class that was doing dissections, and they were literally taking pictures of their dissections and turning that in. And what was so cool about it was that each piece is totally different in the dissection, right? And so students could actually see each other's work, which was great. They shared it in a presentation with each other. The other nice thing is being able to share from other apps. So if you're reading a great article on the New York Times and you want to share that with your teacher or your peers, you can easily share that to Classroom. And then again, offline functionality. And we really want to continue to build this out and make it really easy for students to know what their homework is if they don't have access to the internet. You can still go offline and see all of your student work in all of your classes.
What about embedding? Would there ever be a day that you see the wall be embeddable on a WordPress site or on a Weebly site or something to that effect?
To be honest, we haven't really gotten that feedback. So, if you want to see it, submit feedback using the send feedback button.
I have to tell you, there's a really weird coincidence here, and maybe my co-host can pick up on this, but over the last couple months here on the TechEducator show, we've noticed a couple interesting things. For instance, we did a show all about Google Slides, and then the following week, Google released the Slides app. And then we did a thing on Google, a few other Google tools, and then right away, we happened to have Google releasing or updating or something amazing happened. And as soon as
anything, Jeffrey.
All I'm saying is, as soon as we put out on our Google Calendar that we were going to be doing a show on Google Classroom, boom, you guys popped out the Google Classroom app. Now, I just want to tell you that in 3 weeks, we're going to be doing a show on the Google Cache Machine. And we would like to just let Google know that we happen to be doing this show on how Google provides free cache for educators. I'm just putting it out there, and I want to say to them, thank you for watching the show.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, right.
If I can very quickly, I think I have
yes, please change the subject.
Question here, and it's this. So we're talking about how the simplicity of Classroom and how intuitive it is and easy access. I know when it first rolled out, one of the immediate questions was, what does Classroom mean for the future of Doctopus and Goobric and these scripts that educators have been using for many of these functions that they've been using for years and years? And very quickly we got things like, Andrew Stillman wrote a lengthy post on what he thought sort of this parallel relationship would be like moving forward and how they can work in collaboration. And so I guess I know Josh is queued up to talk a bit about using Doctopus and Goobric with Classroom. Are there other tools that you're using in conjunction with, in combination with Classroom, to help enhance the experience or to continue a particular workflow that has worked for you in the past. Well then, Josh, how about you show us some Doctopus and Goobric?
All right, I guess I'm up. I have several teachers who, because of some assessments they were giving, they actually preferred Doctopus to Classroom, and the reason being is because of these writing assessments, they want to be able to shut off access at the end of the test so that students can't go back in and edit. Whereas in Classroom, it works very similarly, except students could go in and unsubmit. The chances of that are very unlikely, but the teachers like that presence of mind. So then the next step, of course, is Goobric, which allows students to use rubrics online. And at first, it was kind of tepid response to Goobric. Some teachers tried it, didn't really like it very much. But Goobric just came out with an update. So I'm really excited to show the update if you haven't seen it yet. Plus, what that allows to have happen then is some pretty simple rubric-based grading with Google Classroom. And Andrew Stillman did a great job making the two work together. And I find the process to be super simple to get these things set up. So without further ado, here we go with the demo. Pray for luck that it doesn't freeze up on me. All right, so I have a spreadsheet here, and obviously you would need to add the Doctopus add-on. So that would be the first step. And it makes sense to title the spreadsheet whatever the name of the assignment is. But really that's all you need to start up. I opened up Doctopus, and it asked me to select a roster. On this, you can ingest a Google Classroom assignment. So if you were going to build a roster of your students, you would need to have all their first names, last names, and their emails in order to do that. With this, it pulls them all from Classroom, and it's super fast and easy. So then I'm going to select my class, and then choose the assignment that I want to grade. I'm going to do Goobric, Doctopus Goobric Test 2. And I logged in and submitted assignments with about 10 test students yesterday, so I should have quite a bit to pull in here. So then as it loads up here, and I may need to refresh it, it's been open a while. Here we go. Found 10 turned in files to this assignment and 0 not yet turned in. And then you can choose to have it only ingest files that are turned in. So basically what that's saying is you could have it, I have 30 students I loaded in that class. It could pull in all their assignments, but if they haven't turned it in yet, you'd be seeing whatever their work in progress would be. Or if it was a different assignment or different document they were submitting, you wouldn't see anything. So then I just ingest. And then magical part number 1 happens. It is going to auto-populate this spreadsheet. And I actually made a new tab here. And boom, there's all my kids with very strange names. They must have very weird parents. And then their emails, and then their file and the file name, and the status that they turned it in, and when they last edited it. And then at this level here, at the Doctopus assignment tools that comes up, you've got a couple different options here, including look for new submissions. So if other students submitted after the fact, it would pull those in as well. But I'm going to go on to the attach Goobric part, because this part is really where the power is. So if you're not familiar with Goobric, basically it allows you to, if you're using Doctopus, to do rubric type grading on Google Documents in Drive and automatically attach those rubrics to the bottom of the student's documents. So it really streamlines that whole workflow for rubrics if teachers are using those or are fans of those types of things. So I'm going to go ahead. I made one already. I click on Attach Goobric. And it's so easy because it walks you right through the steps. First, you have to install the extension, which I did. Then you have to click on this link and authorize the app, which I did already. And then create your rubric in a Google spreadsheet. And there are some rules to that, but it's super simple. Just you leave the first cell blank, and then in that first row, you put in your point stuff or whatever your categories are. And then on the first column in cells 2 down, you put in the standards or whatever the students are trying to meet for that. So here we're going to select the rubric, and it comes in a spreadsheet file. So I'm just looking for about the one titled Goobric test. I'm going to select that, and then I can attach this to the assignment. So that's taken me all of a few minutes to get to this point. Obviously, you have to make the rubric, etc. But as far as the whole setup process, it really doesn't take very long. And this part is actually my favorite part now that we have this attached. So once we are attached and ready to go, this is part of the new update. You used to have to go into your folder, or you used to have to click on a student assignment to open it up. And then actually, I know it's going to be really hard to see on my screen share, but this is kind of what the old Goobric looked like. You get this drop down with the different grading categories. Is anybody familiar with that old look?
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, the new one is pretty simple. The Goobric eye is right up here. You can click on that, and it takes you to the first assignment. The workflow, super easy. And then you'll notice the new look. On the top is where your grading categories are, and you can simply click on the scores and put in comments, and the comments on the right side there would drop them at the end. What's really cool is that they've added this record audio comment feature. So I have a lot of teachers who are super interested in Kaizena, and they really like it. But the problem with Kaizena is the students also have to open up Kaizena as well in order to utilize it. Not that that's a huge time sink, but it is there. So with this, you can record an audio comment, which is doing right now. It's recording me. And then when you're done, you upload that to Drive, and it links it into their document so that the students have this audio file that they can just click on and then listen to the audio comments that you had to say. You can also put some comments in there. And then after you go through and select the different areas, you might go down, you might give them some comments down here. And then when you're done, all right, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck Auto Advance on Submit so everybody can see this. You also have this. It will email the scores to show that you've graded it to the student. And then when you submit, this is my favorite part, it throws the rubric right on the document right down here with their scores, your comments, and then their audio comments right there. And I think it's great. I think this new update especially really improves the workflow, because it used to be you'd click on a little Goobric eye and it would drop down, but if you clicked on the document then it'd go away again, so it was kind of annoying. But that new update is super nice, and let me get the screen share off. There we go. I like it. It's great. It's something that I'm going to be demoing to a lot of teachers here in the near future, because they do use rubrics and they are looking for something seamless. And the fact that it works with Google Classroom and it's just a few clicks and a couple extra minutes, and now you can use rubrics in your grading, I find it to be awesome.
Very nice. And now we're going to move to a segment of the show which Waka will be hosting.
What? Huh? What?
Well, Waka's hosting a segment of the show. You didn't know this?
I didn't know this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Dave, it's my new segment, and it's called Alice Schools All Y'all. Alice, you've been doing some research on some previously contended ideas. Would you like to fill us in?
Yes, I went to my personal Gmail and I created a document and I shared it with my Google Apps account. I did not put it in a folder, and I did not add it to my Drive, and I was able to attach it to an assignment in Classroom. As every student makes a copy, I roll.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know.
If there's any questions about Google Classroom, we certainly love our live audience. We are here live, of course, on TeacherCast.tv. And as we wrap up here, we will still be live after the show. If you want to hit us up on the hashtag TechEducator, we would certainly love to have any questions pop on up. Or if you'd like to catch us after the show, you can certainly leave me a voicemail, and I'll certainly be able to get it to everybody. You can find us over here at TeacherCast.net and leave me a voicemail at TeacherCast.net/voicemail. Email us at feedback@TeacherCast.net. This show here is going to be archived over at TeacherCast.net/iTunes and TeacherCast.net/YouTube. So while you're driving to work tomorrow, you can listen to the audio or the video version. I highly recommend it. And while you're over there, please take a moment to write us some reviews. We love our reviews. That's how that's like podcasting currency, essentially. The more reviews you have, the more iTunes loves you. David, I want to say so much. Thank you for putting this show together. Let's wrap up a little bit here. Alice, where can we find you, and tell us a little bit more about the great resources that you're offering to people on Google?
Oh, thanks. You can find me on Twitter at Alice Keeler, and I blog a lot about Google on alicekeeler.com.
Excellent. Nina, where can we find some of the great stuff that's happening in your environment?
I'm at Nina Bass on Twitter, and I work with David, so you can always get in touch with me through David Saunders.
Now, is it weird when you walk into David's office and he's riding a bicycle?
Yeah.
Does he wear the little bicycle shorts behind the desk is what I really want to know.
I will never tell.
Come
I
on.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Now, do you prefer David with or without the beard? We've been taking a poll for the last month here.
Get rid of the beard.
Jen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is really, really a pleasure to have you. Tell us a little bit more about how we can get a hold of you and some of the great things happening at Google for Education.
Yeah, so my Twitter is at Jen C. Miller, and I welcome any and all feedback using the send feedback button in the product. That is the single best way to get in front of our team. So if you want a feature or have feedback for us on something that you'd like to see, please send us the feedback. We also have the Google for Education product forum, and it's alive and well with Classroom. We have a lot of classroom experts, including David, that answer questions in a matter of minutes. So if you need help, definitely submit it. There's also the Help Center, which has a ton of resources that walk you through step-by-step on how to use the product. And we have a lot going on with more broadly outside of Classroom, Google for Education. And so you can check them out on G+, Twitter, or the Google for Education blog post. You
do realize that tomorrow you're going to be getting something in your feedback mail that asks for the Google Puppet Show app to be coming out.
Send it.
So please go to Google Classroom, type into the feedback area. Thank you so much for coming on the Tech Educator Podcast. If everybody listening does that, I think we are well on our way to getting our Google Cache Machine. Josh, where can we find all the great stuff that's happening in your neck of the woods?
I tweet over at Mr. G Fact of the Day, and I also blog at mrgtechchats.blogspot.com.
Not to put you on the spot here, Josh, in front of a Googler, but do you have any Google facts of the day that you'd like to share with us?
A Google fact of the day?
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to wrap the show up.
Okay, well, I follow this guy that tweets really pithy sayings all the time, and he did tweet that Google was the 23rd search engine to come to market. So it's pretty impressive that, they kind of waited it out and then just destroyed everybody else. I mean, Alta Vista, who's still even using that? Is that even around?
I'm sure there's some people who are still paying for AOL or using Alta Vista these days.
Fair enough.
I'm using Gopher.
Yeah, you are.
Jeff, what's the next show that you're going to be popping out on either of your podcasts?
Actually, John Samuelson and I are doing a show about Google Chromebook versus the iPad, so that'll be coming out this next week, and should be a good show, so tune in. You can find all of my content, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to find, over at instructionaltechtalk.com.
Excellent. And David, one last time, where can we find more about the great stuff you're doing?
You can find me on Twitter at Design Saunders, and I work with Nina Basinet, so you can always get in touch with me through her.
Sam, this has been an amazing show. We've had a great live audience. I want to again say thank you to everybody out there on TeacherCast.tv watching the audience. Sam, you look like half the man that started the show. What's wrong with you? There you go.
I can't see your screen, so I never know which paltry piece of my camera you're using.
That's okay. Sam, what's going on these days with the EduPuppets Network?
EduPuppets Network is going strong. They are currently part of a secret rebellion army, so they haven't posted anything recently. But there is a lot of exciting stuff going on at mypaperlessclassroom.com. Just posted a review of the Ozobot robot, which is this big.
Wow.
It is a tiny little robot, and my kindergartners did not eat it. I'm so excited.
Next week, we have a great show. Please stick around. If you are watching our live show right now, look to your left on the screen. We have a Google Calendar. February 15th, we are talking all about iBooks author because we are celebrating the fact that on February 15th, TeacherCast is releasing an iBook all about KidBlog called An Introduction to Blogging with Your Students. It's $1.99. If you want to support the channel, I never call you guys and say, hey, donate this or that stuff. This is a great way to, if you're enjoying TeacherCast programming, check it out. Pre-order it today. It drops on February 15th. Please check that out today. TeacherCast.net/kidblogbook. After that, we have a great show. Last year, we had John Carippo come on, Q Rockstar himself, Apple Distinguished Educator. We are going to be doing Final Cut Pro app smashing, how you're going to be able to make amazing movies using Final Cut Pro, Keynote, other great Apple technologies. Looking forward on February 22nd to John Carippo. Then the entire month of March, we are going Microsoft. We're going to be talking about Microsoft education and all those other great tools happening over there. Wait, can I say that word? Jen, can I say that word on the show? Are we okay with that? Are we okay?
It's your show.
Oh, okay. Thank you guys.
Ooh, what a safe answer.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. We will see you next week for episode number 82. Today's episode can be found over at teachercast.net/TEP81. Thank you so much, and continue enjoying. I'll see you guys later. It's been a long night. Continue sharing your passions with your students.